And access to GP services, and we've had this all over the country. For three-quarters of a century, people have been used to the idea that you can go and see a GP face-to-face and get a consultation, but that's becoming very much more difficult. Well, add to all of that what Professor Martin Marshall, chairman of the Royal College of GPs, has said overnight. He has said that he wants to end what he describes as corner shop GP practices, by which he means little local GP practices, and he wants to, in future, have surgeries that will be large-scale operations or part of chains of hospitals. He wants to corporatise what a GP is, and I think that's completely wrong, because I think the GP is just about the most important and trusted member of the local community. It's a classic example of those perhaps in London or running big organisations who just don't understand what the needs of folk are. At least that's my take on it. Now, Dr. Julian Spinks, GP Director at Medway Practices Alliance, thank you for joining us and for taking the hot seat.
Yes. Now, so nice to get a round of applause for a change.
Yeah, we haven't finished yet.
Oh, OK.
And I say that because my sense of this, and I had a GP on the programme on Monday. She's a GP from East London. She said she's spending the first 50% of her consultations with patients that are frustrated, patients that are angry, patients that ring up or queue up and are told they can have an appointment in 3 weeks' time. And I put it to you that actually that bond of trust, that really important bond of trust that exists between GPs and their patients is beginning to break down. That's what I think.
I hate to say it, I agree with you. I spent the first half of my career saying general practice was the jewel in the crown of the NHS. I'm afraid the crown is starting to tarnish and the jewels are starting to fall out. We really have had problems for years. It predates COVID. We have had falling numbers of GPs, so there aren't enough of us actually to see everybody. And COVID made it even worse. We went through that phase where we were told to lock down, to lock our doors, and people started to think that we were somehow sitting there knitting or whatever, when in reality we were doing our best to try and keep the service going whilst not being allowed to actually see patients face-to-face. We've moved back towards that, but actually if we saw everybody face-to-face, we genuinely couldn't see everybody who needed to be, or we couldn't consult with them.
And that's because we don't have enough GPs per capita of population. Is it as simple as that?
It is, generally. I mean, we're way below European countries and other parts of the world on the number of GPs per head of population. So we're trying to push people through. On a typical day, I see 30 to 40 patients. In most countries, they feel that beyond 25 is unsafe. And so, you know, if you're wanting to see me when I've done 12 hours consulting, it's rather like I would not go on a plane where a pilot's been flying for 12 hours without a break, and that is what is happening.